It's a long trip up to northern Vermont, and so the area doesn't get many tourists. That's especially true for the Northeast Kingdom. The locals think that this area is the last bastion of the true Vermonters. It's a region of quiet, pastoral beauty, and the kind of rural self-reliance that was once the hallmark of the whole state. The area is a kingdom of sorts, and it's mostly surrounded by mountain walls and rivers. And yet, the land within the walls of this kingdom is a rolling country, with just the right slope to the hillsides to make for good pasturage. Up here, you find people who do things the old-fashioned way. They thin their forests rather than lay waste to them with clear-cutting. But thinning a woods means that you can't work the place with large machines. No, working the woods this way is a job that's best left for a team of Belgian horses. The kingdom doesn't get a lot of visitors, but for those who do get up this far, it's worth the effort. There's one of New England's most beautiful lakes, Lake Willoughby. And there are backwoods roads that you thought only existed in automobile commercials. Up here, there are still people who use the old round barns, like this one near Irisburg. Or kids who still learn the basics of the business system. The area is dotted with small towns, like Peacham, that conjure up images of an American Eden. And about the center of the kingdom is the beautiful small village of Craftsbury Commons. The members of the classic church in town here help pay for its upkeep by sponsoring the yearly Craftsbury Banjo Contest.
Well, this is the Craftsbury Banjo Contest. It's been going on for 23 years. I started coming about 12 years ago when I was a freshman in college over in Burlington, Vermont, and haven't missed one in about 12 years now.
When did you start? I started about 10.
I was here the first year they started.
Yeah, I started 10 years ago, and I didn't come to 3 years.
I think I missed 1 year. Me and my wife was fighting. I think
Not all of northern Vermont is the Northeast Kingdom. Just to the south of the kingdom is the capital city of Montpelier. It's one of the most low-key and pleasant state capitals anywhere. And wandering around northern Vermont, you can also find the beautiful country to the west of Jay Peak. This Franklin County is proud to boast the largest production of both milk and maple sugar in the state. Farmers make maple syrup all over the state. It's one of Vermont's most important crops. No state in the U.S. is more associated with maple sugaring. Farmers tap thousands of trees to collect the sap. A typical sugar farmer is Ray Hourigan of Fairfield. He still believes in collecting sap the old-fashioned way.
We do everything the old way, and hopefully always can, always will. The old way of sugaring is using buckets, using horses, and using the wood to fire the evaporators. And the wood is a big part of the hard work. This year, hopefully, if Mother Nature's good to us, I plan on tapping 7,000 trees, producing maybe 1,800 gallons of syrup, and I will probably gather 75,000 gallons of sap to produce this syrup. I made it into gathering tanks and pails before, and it's alarming figures how many trips the boys made.
Sadly, collecting sap by buckets is a dying tradition. Today, most maple sugar operations use pipelines. That's what Harry and Burl Morse do at the Morse Sugar Farm outside Montpelier. This is a popular place to visit and see sugar-making operations, and maybe talk to Harry Morse.
When the sap is running, you gather it just as fast as you can because sap is perishable. And when you get it to the sugar house by one means or another, you boil it in as fast as you can and make maple syrup of it. Well, the first part of the season, if you're using a pipeline system, which is a modern method, you have to prepare by making the repairs that are necessary. Well, the pipeline has to be on a grade, and the sap just flows down the line into a tank, and sometimes the tank can be in the sugar house itself. Other times, the tank is out in the woods. It takes about 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup, and it's just a boiling process. We boil it, turn the water to steam. The steam goes through the roof of the sugar house. There's what we call a flue pan, and that flue pan has a great deal of boiling surface. It's built something like an accordion. It goes down one partition, back the next to give it a lot of travel space. Gets sweeter as it goes. My wife's gotten sweeter the last 50 years. We keep checking it with a hydrometer, and when it's the right consistency, we draw it off. It's maple syrup.
Route 100 wanders up the central valleys of the Green Mountains. It's the road to take if you're not planning on driving too fast and want to stop to discover Vermont's treasures. It's a way of visiting the whole state from north to south. But like any good road, you have to get off it to discover the real charms. A good place to start a trip up Route 100 is down near the Massachusetts border, off the so-called Molly Stark Trail from Bennington. From there, it winds up through the Green Mountain National Forest. Take one of the forest roads off to the side and find some waterfalls and a graceful sense of nature. About mid-state, there's Ludlow with its renovated mill complex. You should get off and travel over to the west side of the Middlebury Gap to Ripton. Here you can find the Breadloaf Writers Conference and a wonderful little park called the Frost Wayside. This honors Ripton's most famous resident, Robert Frost. At the top of each of the gaps, there's crossings of the Long Trail. This hiking trail follows the spine of the Green Mountains and is worth a day hike, if not a week. If you keep your eyes open, you can find forest streams and hidden meadows of wildflowers. If you want small towns with covered bridges, stop in Waitsfield. Or maybe a little further up in Warren. And by the time you get to Waterbury, especially in the fall, you'll also probably stop at the Cold Hollow Cider Mill. And there you will most certainly meet Eric Chittenden.
You know what it says? It says, I got squeezed at the Cold Hollow Cider Mill. You know we do that? We give you a squeeze. Sure. Our whole objective in the cider mill is to involve the public in the processing of fresh apple cider. And that includes from the time the apples are dumped into the hopper and